we are rolling.
Okay, so we have an extremely special guest. We've got Uncle Dave Benett, joining us on the Mike Brooker Show. Usually we only have more sports performance, or actually we've had a couple of artists and stuff like that, but this is our first photographer. So Dave, thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure, boys.
And especially what do you call you, a celebrity photographer?
Yeah, I'm a celebrity photographer now.
Right. So what does that mean then?
So we're the guys that sort of help. We're the gel that keeps everything together. So if you throw a big party, we're the guys that are there that make the party work. If you haven't got these guys like me, you can throw a party and no one will know about it.
Right.
So you have to have guys like me who are used to working on that level.
Right. So what do you mean? So you go backstage to things?
Totally. So yeah, if you have a party for an after party for a movie,
right,
there'll be 2 or 3 photographers who will come back and they'll be in the party with you. You know, wait for the talent, wait for the star, and then we'll create an ambiance that then we'll take some pictures, guests meeting them, then, you know, cast meeting each other, just creating that atmosphere. For example, with June, we had Zendaya, Jason Momoa, and Timothée. And the picture is them having a good time, having a laugh, and that goes around the world.
Right.
So it was worth you doing that to create a buzz,
sure,
for the movie or for the product. And you get guys like me to come in and do that.
So then do they say to you, all right, Dave, we want this kind of picture to go into all the papers? So then are you setting that up, or are you just there and you're trying to get the energy going and you're just snapping?
It's a mixture of both. So I'll be there because I'm that guy that will get it in the paper. I go through Getty Images, which is my platform, which I've been working with for the last 18 years now. So whatever I shoot goes on Getty then send it around the world. So that's where you get that coverage that, you know, you wouldn't get with some guys.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you become that guy? Where does your reach extend?
Well, a lot of time. It's got a lot of years that get developed this character. You know, a lot of practice. I've been a photographer for 42 years, probably, as a young freelancer, as a young news photographer. You were talking about sport. When I first started, I was what you call a general photographer in London.
Right. And
in London, general photographer was employed by the newspapers, the Times, the Telegraph, or the Sun, the Star. You might hear, I don't know. And you basically sell your time. You're shifting. You're a shifting photographer.
Mm-hmm.
And there I would shoot football matches, athletics, rugby matches, and probably some big games too, all the big major teams in London. And then you do the news stories, could be very serious. You'd be sent to, cover the aftermath of an IRA bomb back in those days. We had some, a lot of trouble in England, in London. Or you might do the riots, Brixton and Tottenham and all these places, just like you would have in LA or wherever you might be. And then slowly, having gone through that for about 7 or 8 years, 9 years, this thing called showbiz arrived. And first of all, it was paparazzi, where you're running around sports cars, chasing, guys in the West End of London. And slowly, your reputation got better and better, and you were working indoors and outdoors. And then before you know it, you're only doing indoors. You only buy invitation only, and that's when your rep takes over. And then you find out that, in fact, people want you to be at their parties. That's it.
So I would imagine that all of the guys standing outside on the red carpet and stuff, they're all the same. I mean, your photography skills they must be similar, right? Like,
yeah.
What differentiates you compared to all the others? Why have you been brought in?
Well, I suppose being in the right place at the right time. Mm-hmm. I started that journey when the door was still open.
Right.
The door may not be open anymore for those guys to come through that door.
Fair. Yeah.
We can talk about that in another completely other, a story in its own, that one. But yeah, what happened was, I suppose you take it for granted that you have the skills.
Right.
It's from then on is what differentiates you is how smooth you are,
Right.
how persuasive you are, and also how good you look. You know, to make it work for this thing to happen.
You look good.
Well,
You're a smart.
when I was young, this hair was black and it was different.
Sure.
We were like very cool crew.
Right.
So the door was already open and we were crossing into that.
Right.
Now, obviously, we're senior citizens there with that respect.
Sure. You're the OGs.
Right? Yeah, so you'll be invited because the party that, if you've got a really big party going on, be it fashion party where Donatella Versace's come to London, she's going to be with Dua Lipa, she's going to be with Kylie Minogue, you're not going to get guys who don't know what they're doing in there.
Sure.
So you have to get guys that are used to that and can work with that.
Sure.
And that's the same, for example, if you're working with film premiere, you've got Clooney, Brad Pitt, you've got Ocean's 12, 13, guys who are working with them those days are, they know you, they recognize you.
Right.
They're at ease with you.
Right.
You're not your friends, but they're at ease with you.
Sure.
So it means that you can, and if you're an event organizer or a film company, these are the guys you need.
Sure.
To make them comfortable.
Sure.
And then you have to make sure that the guy is not only that, but then he has the potential and the platform to then bang that around the world.
Right.
And that's where we get more and more. And it's that classic thing where the more you do it, the better you get, and the more people want you to do it. And so it opens the doors, and the job becomes easier for you.
So this is just so strange to me. How do you I know with personal training, right? Brooker and I have trained some pretty popular people, and then it's like one person begets another person before you know it, you have, a celebrity on the other line. Like, I hear you're the trainer. Is it something similar with that? Because once you have that base level of knowledge, base level of preparation.
Yeah, but it's not maybe a celebrity. It'll probably be within the profession. Our profession is governed by management agents, publicists, PR companies who create the premieres, who create the parties.
Right.
So it is the same, but we're not working with individuals as you are.
Right.
We're working with the companies that are given the responsibility to make the event happen. So George Clooney and I don't know who else you want to say, The Rock, they don't know really who's there. They're not going to be looking ahead, we're going to be in London, will they be there? Although amusingly, Tom Cruise does say, where were you when last time I was here? Because he actually does. He doesn't remember who why weren't you there? I heard that,
Right.
But so those people, so if you think about it, if you're a publicist and you've got super talent coming in, the pressure's on you to make sure you've got guys who can cope with the super talent. Otherwise, the film company goes, what do you do? I just had these great guys here and we've got nothing from it.
Right.
So they're under pressure to make sure they know the best guys, which then, of course, creates what we do. So then you make sure they make you the best guy, and you keep that thing going on, which is a perpetual movement of having to be good enough all the time, and they want you to be. You have to keep friends with them. Everyone, there's that whole connectivity that happens, and it is tough. As a young guy, half your work is making sure everyone knows you're here. Having do you know what I mean? Making sure you're the guy they call.
Right.
And it can be that personal.
Right.
In London, in the last few years, there's probably things have changed a lot. There's not many like me, but there were about half a dozen. But in America, you've got the same crew. You've got the Kevin Mazers. These guys, they're all the big guys in America. So if Jay-Z's having a party, the PR publicist is going to make sure she calls him because he can work with them. Yep, it's the same with me. Mm-hmm. So if you've got guys like Tom Hardy or at an event, you want me there because they know that I connect with these guys.
And they know that you're cool, you make them feel comfortable.
Exactly.
They've known you years and years and
There's
years.
trust involved now. And I've got, and a lot of, very luckily, in my age, a lot of these guys have grown up with me.
Mhm.
So I've got these guys now who are about to become superstars. Michael Ward, a few other great black actors at the moment who are like just banging on that to come through. And they're already friends of mine. They're already like, Uncle Dave, not Uncle Dave, literally.
Sure.
I mean, I remember Stormzy saying that to me.
Right.
He goes, man, if you're here, it's a big deal. So that reputation.
Yeah, reputation
builds up and
begets
carries up.
reputation.
Exactly. That's right.
So, but did you have like a big break? Was there one event that you were like, when you first started out, that was really then like the step? Either you got invited somewhere, or just even personally, you realized in your mind, like, I can make this, or I can do this, I can become this other type of
breaks
person.
happen. It's funny. It's a funny thing. In fact, I was just talking to a young cinematographer here, Neil, about that. When you're young, breaks happen. If you're not ready to take advantage of that, don't call it a break. Don't feel you failed because you weren't ready for it. It's just one of those things. The big break is when you're ready for it, when it comes. Right. And I found that in what I do. I was very fortunate that my career was just in the hands of fate, really, how it develops. But then some good breaks happened. I got a lot of work for television, TV company, which springboarded my career because of the amount of money they paid comparative to newspapers.
Right.
So 1978, 79, 80, there was a thing called, you remember Punks, the Sex Pistols. Mm-hmm. Well, in England, there was a TV show called Today Show, and a guy called Bill Grundy thought he could show these punks up as being these uncouth idiots. So he let them get drunk, came on the show, he started winding them up, and then they got really rude with him and actually said the big word, the F word, lots of times at him. Sadly for him, he got sacked and they became super fucking world famous. But that show was canned, and a new show arrived that wanted to be a TV magazine program show. Mm-hmm. With a bit of news, a bit of showbiz, a bit of this and that. And these guys couldn't get agreements with the very powerful film unions in England. So they managed to get an agreement for NUJ Stills guys, which were Fleet Street guys, to work for the TV company as long as they wasn't in the studio. They were outside, shooting outside, covering news stories. So a young Dave Benett walks through the door, and suddenly I'm working for a TV company, getting paid 3 times more than a guy who was working Fleet Street at the age of 21. 2021. So that was one of my first breaks.
Right.
And that's how these little things happen.
Sure.
And then that brought me into it. And then as I developed, then I think after a while, then it's how clever you are and how intelligent your decisions are. When you start to, when you are there now, you're on the playing field, if you want to put it into sports terminology. And some guys make the right decisions, some guys make the wrong ones. It's the difference between scoring a touchdown or scoring a goal or missing, And I think in my game it's the same, where you have to be, I suppose the general rule is always just be incredibly polite and charming, make sure they all love you. And then from that then come the invitations. I remember a friend of mine I worked closely with, people used to disparage his work. And I, in defense of him, I say, you might be the best photographer in the world. He's in there, you're out here. So you could do what you want, but he's getting the picture. You see what I mean? And that is probably one of the most important things.
So here's how do you break in? How do you and is it the publicist that pays you? You're going to all these parties. Is it the publicist saying, hey, we're and then who's giving the publicist the money?
So the old world, pre-2007, when internet finally took over and sort of destabilized the world we were in. But you have made enough money from the newspapers. We call it editorial. So you go and shoot a picture editorial. No one's paying you. You get the nod, you get the invite, the publicist invites you. No money, no money. But because your product made money. And then that game changed in 2007 because suddenly the newspapers said they hadn't got any money anymore. Internet was taking it all off them. They didn't want to pay. So then suddenly you were looking for other ways of earning money. So then what is called a paid assignment arrives. This is the new way where guys of my level would be asked by the clients, which would be either the publicist or the actual brand. So, for example, Gucci would want you to be there to photograph their party. So they'd have access to the imagery.
Right.
And pay you for that. But you still put it on Getty editorial.
Right.
You see? So that's how.
So they're, because Getty's, it's free. It just has Getty Images on it, right?
No, it's not free. Getty's not free.
Okay.
If you're getting it free, you're stealing it.
Gotcha. I don't know. I just see, I always see people post pictures that say Getty Images on it, and I don't.
What they do, what happens there is, right, if you can go on a Getty site and you'll have my picture of Michael Jackson, say, or Prince. It'll say picture by Dave Benett, picture by Dave Benett. Now, if you copy that and put it on your site, no one's really going to say anything because you're obviously saying it was on Getty Images, Dave Benett was written right across it, on the watermark, whatever you want to call it, you know. But if you wanted to get that image without that without that bit of thing there, then you have to pay for it.
Right.
Now, all the newspapers you see where it's not there, but it's written down the side, you know, when you look at USA Today or Times in London or wherever, it will say picture Dave and Ben and Getty. So they are either on subscription or they've got an account where they download the images. And every month they go, okay, you took 400 pictures, you know, at £10 a picture. So we want 4,000, you know, £40,000. You see what I mean? That's how that happens.
But this is actually this was an important part of your career too, right? So
well, when I was young, I sold my own. Yeah, but
right.
that came back later. For the first, I've only been at Getty for 18 years. So the stuff before was you sold your own pictures. And, you know, when we were shooting some really good pack pictures, when you called a paper, the guy was down the phone, he was grabbing your, you know, because he knew if you were ringing, you had something good. Do you know what I mean? So you'd like produce, you know, great pictures, you know.
And so this was all exclusive then, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
but or you crack deals.
Right.
So you say you want so much, and if they said, oh, it's too much, it's okay. Well, I'll do a deal with 2 papers. So I want a little bit less, but I'll take 2 papers on it. You know, and then Getty became your secondary agent. So Getty or any other agency then would become your secondary sale as a young man. If you were good, you'd sell the first lot directly yourself, and then instead of it then falling in the bin, it then goes to the agency who sells it around the world. You know?
Yeah, I know a couple of guys that are like they're on the cusp of being like famous people. And whenever there's a Getty image of them, they literally post on their Instagram, but they have the Getty, it says Getty image on it.
That's why they're not, that's why no one's chasing their ass.
Yeah.
They left that bit on. Let me give you a story. Over the years, and particularly with internet, because don't forget, before internet, people, you go and shoot something, and unless you open the newspaper and saw it, it didn't exist. So all these girls and their clubs and parties and club organizers, yeah? They go, you know, have a party, they go, oh, Dave, can I come pictures of my party? I say, yeah, sure, I'm happy to do it. You invited me or you paid me. But the guys outside the Paps are outside. So the Paps take their pictures, and the only money they get is someone pays for it. Do you know what I mean? It's the same with the wildlife photographer. He puts it on Getty. He's probably living in a little shack somewhere, shooting his pictures, and he's, you know, hopefully that someone's going to buy it. And you get some idiot comes along, wants to do a thing on wildlife, and just takes them and puts them on wildlife. And then he gets a knock on the door. The guy goes, you just breached copyright. Oh my God, what I didn't, yeah, you see? And especially so with these parties, it happens a lot. There's a couple of issues with very big Hollywood stars at the moment about that. Anyway, so this girl, my girlfriend, she said, look, I'm in a bit of trouble. That party said, yeah. She said, well, I used a couple of pack pictures from an agency called Splash. So, yeah. She said, well, they're after me. What do you mean? She said, they've sent the lawyers out. They want £20,000. I went, oops. Anyway, so I call a guy who calls a guy, as you try and do to help friends. And then the guy comes back and goes, oh, we're in trouble here. I said, why? He said, Splash used to have their own legal team. So if you transgress, I could go to the guy who I know Splash, and he talks to the lawyer, and the lawyer come back and goes, okay, all right, naughty boy, don't do it again. Yeah. But now the agencies have sold that part of their business to, what do you call ambulance chasers? You know the guys?
Paramedic.
No, but the ambulance chasers, that's all they do. They sue people. So they've sold. Yeah. So now that anything that is their money now, the contracts being signed from that agency to these guys. They're lawyers company. They're lawyers. Cutthroat lawyers. What do you call them? Yeah. So now the guy himself can't say to that guy, "Oh, can you leave her alone? She did on that." He go, "No, that's our money. We're asking for 20 because you're getting probably 40 back. We're giving you a deal. This is our contract, which gets rid of all Splash's lawyers. Don't need them anymore. And they're on a profit because the guys make the money and give them back their cut. So again, it's changing. And I think a couple of Hollywood girls got caught out big time. And of course, the big thing is, oh, it's my image. Yeah, but you're on a public street, babes. You're on a public street. Boy takes a picture. Yeah, that's it. It's his picture.
Right.
You use it. It's his picture. Now, if you tag him, put his name on it, he probably won't do anything to you. You with me? But if you don't, he's got all the right in the world to get someone on you.
But this must be where it gets really difficult, because especially living in the sort of consumer economy that we're in now, right? Everyone, especially if there's so many people that are not even famous, but they think they're famous or want to be famous. So they're always wanting their pictures taken. And now with the smartphones, people are taking things of everything. But obviously, like the sort of unwritten rules of photography, they must have changed a lot from when you started to where they are now, right?
Yeah, don't get me wrong, the phones are the phones. That's another world. People taking phone pictures on their phones. What could you do about that? Nothing.
Right.
You can't do anything about that. And selfies are their own thing, right? That's another world. But the rules are still the same. Yeah. If you're a celebrity or wanting to be a celebrity, you're probably the guy calling the boys to tell them where you are. Let's be honest, let's not cut. We know that, Let's not, So you're not going to grieve about, what
someone,
they do.
Right, someone taking a quick picture, they don't give a shit. That's not,
No, it's not. I know girls who make sure they look better going into the place than they're inside because they want to dive outside again.
Ain't this shit incredible?
Yeah, but that's, come on, that's reality TV. That's the reality world. That's what's happened. That's come from the showbiz, the sort of the bottom end of the showbiz became reality TV. Mm-hmm. The showbiz shows that were like EastEnders in England. I don't know what the shows in America are. Yeah.
Neither do I.
The drop into then reality TV where you're just like Made in Chelsea, one of them in England.
Right.
But they're all very posh girls. So I like The Real Wives of wherever.
It's like Jersey Shore or Real Housewives.
Yeah. The reality. The difference between those guys and the smaller show guys is very, very, very little. And fame now, not internet, obviously, Instagram and Facebook and whatever, but just content need. We've got a zillion more channels in the world now. Back in the day, there were 4 channels in England.
Right.
So you could only watch those.
Right. Now
you buy a TV, you hit the button, 100 channels are on offer.
More.
Yeah, that's in the TV. That's what a smart TV is. That just connects, man. So imagine having to fill that.
Oh, it's endless. That's why they say that the smartest thing you can do is just constant. Don't consume stuff online, but produce, create.
Well, let's look at the great side of it. We wouldn't have got Fast and Furious or all the TV what's that one called? Fast and, you know, the guy fixes the cars, makes the cars better.
You're talking Fast and Furious, right? Like the guys.
No, isn't it Fast and Furious is the movie? Or,
yeah, that's the movie.
Yeah, but what's the show? The show of the guy, really cool guy, and his team. They'll turn a car into.
It's Pimp My Ride.
Yeah.
Exhibit.
Yeah. And all of those sort of things. You know what
Sure.
I mean? And that's content needed.
Sure.
Wheeler dealers.
Sure.
I mean, literally. And we won't stop. We're always, that'll be more and more and more.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, probably everyone always wants to ask you what different celebrities are like. I mean, we was talking about that before we started, right? In general, what is the vibe like? Is it all for show and these people all stuck up, or are they actually quite nice and cool? I mean, what is the situation?
Without getting into specifics, most of the guys are really nice people. Some, like in any part of the world, in anything we do, it's like sportsmen. Most of us, 89% are great.
Yeah.
And then you've got 11% who actually believe the shit that said about them. And that happens with everyone. And, most of the young actors that I work with are really nice kids. I believe in my own profession that you can never be too friendly. You can be professional friends. And I think, a lot of people make that mistake where because you become familiar, you then think, that they can be friends. I think particularly in the industry I'm in, we are probably takers. So we have to be careful, to make the mistake of thinking that someone's your mate. If you didn't have a camera, would they be your friends? I think it's not a mistake. It's not a fault of theirs. It's a fault of yours if you think differently. And I think a lot of guys make that mistake where they think they're part of that crew. But really, you're from the other side, but you can be friends and respectful and we do, but I think that's as far. If you remember that and keep that keeps you in a good place. Yeah. Where, you never overstep the line. You always, and they appreciate that, I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess probably the thing that you can most offer is the fact that you're always calm, charming, relaxed. The opposite of what most people are like when they see Madonna or Prince or.
Also, the relationship builds from an early age, or over the years, so they know that you're not the guy that's going to be trying to take a picture of them drunk. You're not going to guy, who's going to if a guy's got a button undone and it's not the right look, I just give him a little wink and a point, and you go, oh, thanks, Dave, and tie it up. And with a girl, of course, that's definitely happy. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That decision was made 20, 30 years ago, where you went, what, I'm always going to be on the right side of that picture, and that's paid off because that's what we've become. We've become those guys, I'm more likely, if a girl was drunk coming out of a club, I'd more likely put her in a cab, make sure she gets home, or take her home. You know what I mean? And to make sure that would be and any of the guys I work with, I would hope that would be the same. Yeah.
So you had mentioned personality traits, you want to be charming, you want to be friendly, you want to be nice. Everyone's always kissing these guys' asses, everyone's, oh, let me get the door for you. Let me do this. Let me do that. What are you doing? Granted, you have your reputation. So you're set. Everyone knows Uncle Dave, how you doing? But when it comes to, I don't know, building that rapport, what do you do? What are you doing differently?
It's a mixture of, first of all, when they're young, they're told by their publicist, this is the guy.
Yeah.
That's the start. So then they realize he is the guy. So then that relationship starts to cement. Otherwise, it tends to be introductions by very good, powerful people who, again, you've met through your life, and they're big publicists, or they're connected. I mean, one of my biggest breaks was working with Oceans 12 and 13. and the guy who gave me that break was a personal friend. Name was Johnny Borum, a great guy. Worked in film. He's in LA. He's got, he moves around, and he was probably, you call him he was a product placement guy. So in a movie, when the Jag appears or the Cartier watch is shown,
Coca-Cola,
that's it. That's his deal. He would go and work on all that. And he said, he called us up and he said, "Oh, what are you doing in February next year?" I said, "Why?" "Okay, I've got the crew of Ocean's 12 coming in, and I want you guys to be on board because I know Jerry, the producer, decided he's passed now." And I said, "Well, yeah, really great. Okay, I'm there." He literally meant it. We were on the tarmac as the Gulf Stream pulled up, door open, George, Brad, Matt Damon step out, and I'm standing on the tarmac going, "Hi guys," and they go, "Shit, Dave, you get everywhere." So that relationship starts there. You see where that starts?
Mm-hmm.
And then we go with them in the limo, in the cabriolet to the super yacht, jump on there, hang out for an hour, just hanging around, a couple of frames here and there, no pressure. And then they go off, we go up, and the next night I have a huge party. We go to the Grand Prix together, and the creative bond. That happens again for 13. Now, because of that, when Brad, so he sees me, he goes, "Oh, you were in France with me." See how that works? Because you weren't just in LA with him, you weren't just in Hollywood with him, you were somewhere special. And that's one of those, that's what the other thing I always say to guys, if you can get a foreign trip, go for it, because people never forget you when you've been somewhere special with them. And obviously the same with George, So very fortunate, he's always remembers that. So if he sees me in a crowd, he'll make an effort, which is unbelievable to get that level, where someone like him who sees, can you imagine how many people these guys see all the time? So, and I've been very fortunate where that's happened a few times, and it's really helped my career. So these guys do that, yeah. So it is a bit mystifying how it happens if you're not actually watching it there with us to see it happen. And it's a lot of work when you're young, kissing ass, as you're saying, doing all of that, to the publicists, to the PR agencies. And then obviously, the more you're in, the more the guys see you, the more they get comfortable with you, the more you can shoot stuff. And then from that, hopefully, you'll get pictures that are better than the actual event because something happens. I'll give you an example. What's the Schwarzenegger movie with Stallone and all the boys? Oh no, Stallone movie. That's
Expendables?
Amazing. Yeah. Now, and another guy I could talk about for hours is Stallone. What?
You know Stallone as well?
Know him. I work with him. But for me, one of the most important men in Hollywood for the last 30 years. The generosity of that man is incredible. How if you touch him and he likes you, your career in Hollywood's sorted, man. You know what I mean? You look at like Vinnie Jones, Jason Statham. He then goes and does which one again? Yeah.
Expendables,
and he brings Harrison Ford back. He brings Arnold. He brings Van Damme back. This is how powerful this guy is. For me, a lot of people say things. I think for me, that's where when you put your money where your mouth is, and that's what he's done, And we were doing that in Cannes. So the guys from the film company said, "Dave, we want you to be the house on this, right? Because we've got all these heavyweights here." And the French guys are great, but they don't know what's going on. So,
they're French.
They're cool. So I take this over. I literally jump on. They're brilliant. They got 2 tanks coming into Cannes. So they're 2 tanks with all these guys on it. Literally, all of them packed on this tank, and I'm jumping onto the tank, photographing them, having a great time. We stopped the traffic. It was old style Cannes.
Cool.
Old style Cannes. But only super Hollywood guys could do that.
Sure.
Only when you get those sort of heavyweights comes, really that Schwarzenegger. So the party that night, we're down in a club on the beach there, and we're having a big party. And historically, Arnold and Stallone have always had a bit of zing, you know, because they were both huge action stars at the same time. There would have been a bit of a zing, but it was great to see that obviously that's gone. So much so that I've got Sly dancing with Arnold Schwarzenegger at this party in the sunset. You know, the sunset's there, and then the two of them go, you go, is this really happening? And that's where you get a picture that's better than what you expect, you know?
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
So, are you ever at a point with any of these people where you are yourself, or are you always, hey, when I'm around these guys, I'm in work mode and this is Uncle Dave that I want them to know? Do you ever like let your hair down?
So yeah, in a sense that I do. Maybe that's why I'm who I am, because the difference between one and the other is so close with me. So when you see the humor and the funny, that's me anyway. And I think a lot of them know that, you know, so that's good. I think what I was trying to explain was it's not so much that it's not you that's here, it's that you can't expect them to, you can't become friends. Still you're being you. Yeah. Being funny, being, you know, and cheeky if they're being cheeky back to you, you know, but it's just the crossover line is the thing we were talking about earlier. You know, it's a crossover line. It's got to be careful. It's not me. You know, it's like, but then who is me? Because look at the boys. We've been on a practically a tour here, where young guys have come in and come out, but Dave is there. So Dave is that guy that's there. And I'll be the same when I walk into a party. You'll know I've arrived. And that's what the client wants, you know? When I arrive at the party starts, sort of thing. That's come from years of partying too heavily, probably, you know? I mean, back in the old days, I mean, I'd be on that big white sofa with Naomi and whoever, and Black Eyed Peas, and taking a picture, obviously always beautiful pictures, but you know, but we'd be right on it with them. I mean, things have changed in the last 10 years, you know, publicist power, an alienation, a bit of a separation. You know, some of the girls have become too well known and they've got a bit, you know, become a bit too big Stella, you know, a bit too, but then you still do what you do, you know.
Sure. I mean, probably you're still you. Are you just maybe?
Let's say
you're just not expecting from them to be treated non-professional. You're just expecting. I have to be professional.
Yeah, and I just think I'm
fun.
Yeah, and this
it's like what you wear.
Yeah, because you know you can't. Say example, if your guys say, "Oh, come to one of our parties," and you go, and before you know it, you're on the table with the wife dancing away, having a great time with the girlfriend, and then suddenly, fuck, what are you doing? You're my trainer, man. You see what I mean? So that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I think is that they don't see the line. They cross it. You know, it's a warning more than anything.
Yeah.
Talking about warnings, have you had any like hiccups, or have you had any like important sort of mistakes that you've made that have like reset you back in the right place? Like you ever got fucked up at one of these parties? You never got fucked up at one of these?
No, I mean, let me put it this way.
Yeah,
Mike Brooker Show is littered with those, mate. That's not a problem. You know, that's not a problem, you know. But there's a saying in the old games that, and your reporter made his excuses and left. Yeah, so you've got to know how to extricate yourself.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Whether you have to slip out the back door, you know, because you're rotten, you know, it does happen. But you know, few and far between now. But back in the day, yeah, and that's my point about believing a bit too much of it. See what I mean?
Sure.
You know, yeah. I mean, especially when you're doing, I suppose when you're doing, you know, big away trips, where you know home is a hotel room. So you know, sometimes you got to make sure that, you know, thank God for Uber now, eh?
Right. Sure.
Do you know what I mean? gets you out of trouble just when you need it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, over the years, yeah, I wouldn't say no. I'd be dishonest to say that hasn't happened.
Sure.
Quite amusing sometimes, which I can't tell you about, but I'm just saying there's quite a few funny times.
Sure.
But on the whole, no, I've always managed to extricate myself from it.
Sure. Yeah. But I mean, I'm sure you're still learning today, right? Like you've been in it 42 years and then probably you're still, I mean, you were telling me now how your business is also, you've got other boys underneath you.
Yeah,
now.
Totally. That's
so
really, that's a new direction that that started about 7 years ago now. So that started happening, which is, to be fair, good for me because it means I don't have to do everything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I can pick and choose what I'm doing now. So that'll hopefully lead into a bit less work. Because by the nature of a freelance, when you're young, you know, everyone goes, "Oh, you're so lucky. You're a freelancer. You work when you want." Well, there's nothing further from the truth than that.
Yeah, you
freelancer
don't know where your next meal is.
Thank you. Every day. Yeah. And he's the guy that when the guy goes, "Oh, can you work on Sunday?"
Mm-hmm.
Because you know there might not be a job Monday, there might not be that work on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So that's the work ethic from that is incessant.
Mm.
So it's probably too much, to be honest with you.
Mm.
It probably affects personal lives.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
And to finally now suddenly have a situation, amazingly, will help my daughter, who's now become the manager of this Dave Benett Photos Limited. I've actually had the opportunity to go, okay, I won't do it, but someone else will. So that's a really, very lucky man to get that situation now.
Mm-hmm. Sure, but you still show up for the big gigs, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean,
so if the Oscars call, you're going. You're not sending one of the boys.
So I'll be at the Brits. I'll be the Brits, and the Brits will have VIP photographers. So we're the guys. If ever you see a show like a big film, red carpet, there'll be the guys in what they call the pen, or shouting and screaming from the side, and then there'll be 3 or 4 guys standing on the red carpet. Yeah, that's who we are.
Right.
See what I mean?
So when Uncle Dave shows up, you got camera around the neck, or do you have like a crew? Like, hey, do this, do that.
No. Those guys do other jobs for me. I'll be working that job. No, I turn up. So if I turn up, I mean, don't get me wrong. I am developing that where I'll come in and go, hi, kiss a few people, and then my guy will stay there while I move somewhere else. That would be an idea that I think if I could develop, that would be amazing.
Sure.
But at the moment, no, it's small. So if you'll turn up at one job, and because you're at this job, you can't get to the other job. So then the guy will cover that job for you.
Sure.
You see what I mean?
So like, let's say you were the James Bond premiere, right? So you rock up, you're dressed to the nines, and you got just a camera around you, and that's it. That's it. You go straight in. People know who you are. Blah blah blah.
Totally. So I've always said that. For me, I always, if you're going to give anyone advice in my industry, is make sure you look the part. So even if it's a very simple one: black uniform, so it's a black polo neck, turtleneck, black jacket, black slacks. You got to look the part. You look like a Gucci model and walk through the door. You know what I mean? Look the part. I always say that's half of the guy that walks in with a rucksack. I've seen guys work in parties and they've still got the rucksack on their backs while they're working. And they're bumping into people and you go, what? Where's that come from? And you practically have to go up to them. Oh yeah, all right. And then he puts the bag down, because he's got other cameras in his bag.
Sure. Yeah, and he's not read the situation.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, totally. And that happens so much. And that's why you were saying, well, how come you become that guy? It's because you know about those things. You understand. An example of how the different guy works. So I was at a party that Netflix were throwing about 2 years ago, promoting White Helmets, which is a documentary about the guys that go in and save people from bombed bomb buildings. And George and Amal asked to see that movie and support it. So they came to the Bulgaria Hotel, and I was standing there. The guy from Netflix was standing next to me, and the girls who asked me to come, who were my friends, were there. And when George walked in with Amal, the guy looked at me, expecting me to move, and I didn't move. George came in, walked past me, met the producer, met the director, had a conversation. We were talking about, do you want to get your room on your own? He said, not at all. You know, the cool people were here, everyone's cool. And as he's talking, he looks through these two people and sees me. And because of Ocean's 12 and 13 and everything else that we've done since, he says, excuse me, to the producer, walks around them, comes up to me and pulls my beard and goes, hello there. This guy nearly fainted, literally. You know, and then I make my move and get a lovely picture in George and Mark.
Right.
And that is so important, that idea of timing, knowing when, well, you're in the middle of a party that you've got Joaquin Phoenix, Jonathan Pryce, all these amazing actors are all there. They're all, you can't buy in. But the subtlety of the moment that when you go, oh God, can I get a picture? You practically have to be watching them without them seeing you, but you're listening to the conversation, watching the movement, see what they're doing. And then as you feel the rest, the breath, but the guy's just finished now and the other guy hasn't got anything to say anymore. Once you see that, that's your moment. Then you move in and they'll turn to you and then, well, yeah, sure, man, great idea. Let's get a picture together. Yeah. Yeah. Some people just flash. That's another thing. That's another style of reportage.
Just flash them to turn.
Well, no. They'll be working them talking.
Oh, right.
You know, like you see that quite a lot. So Vanity Fair work all way. I work the other way. I'm more of a, I want you to pose for me.
Right.
But there are two styles. Yeah. You guys say something?
Yeah, I always wonder. I was just about to ask about style. I always wonder. I talk to some people that do photography. Like, oh, this lens with this type of light and this and that. And you were just mentioning, you got this guy with a backpack and he's got all these different cameras and everything. No. Look the part. So when you're trying to look the part, do you have like hey, this is my go-to camera for this situation, and I'm waiting until I got my shot?
Yeah. One camera, one zoom. No, didn't just, yeah. And held very low, never held high until the moment comes. Yeah, totally. And you are literally being part of that party. You're mingling with it, you flow with it, you see where it's going. When the big one comes in, when the big fishes arrive, you might have been with some little ones over there at the time, but you don't rush away and leave them. Looks wrong. Not unless you're under pressure. There's other photographers. So there's two styles. You work with sometimes where you work on your own, which is great. I'm used to that now. I'll work the whole party on my own. But sometimes you're working with 2 or 3 other guys. So that changes the whole mentality, the whole balance of that. Now you've got to be careful, but you can't miss a picture because the guy's doing it. Or you can if you think you can get it back, which I can quite often do. I'll actually let the guy take that picture. And then when I get my moment, I'll go back and go, yeah, actually, I need that picture. I'll take it again. See what I mean? So, but that's all comes with experience and respect. Whereas back when you were young, you'd be a bit nervous about that. So you want to be on it straight away. And some guys have got no idea and no class, so they'll go straight on it all the time, Yeah. And I think, and as the years go by, people see the difference in your picture. And they go, shit, oh yeah, I can see why he's done that there, not there, Sure. And so you do have a style. The style does exist.
But say like for you, I mean, I remember someone asking you the other day, oh, is this camera, is it this or this, some technical term? And you were like, look, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but what's interesting is, I mean, if you scroll through your Instagram, you've got top pictures from 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So it can't be the camera. It's nothing to do with the camera, is it? Really? Because the cameras, they get better. Yeah, okay, the quality gets better, but it's the moment. It's them feeling good in front of you. It's, you, like what you said, it's all these other soft skills that probably make you. Because I'm sure there's a lot of other guys that technically
and I would say, like all of us, you take your technical level as granted. That's where you start. So anyone, I assume you can take a good picture.
Right, right.
Technically. That's when we move on.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if a guy can't even take a picture, well, then shouldn't be in the room.
Right.
So you take it for granted that the guy can take the picture. Now we start working.
Right.
Now it's the connections. Now it's the introductions, the friendships that you make. So I can go to someone having missed the picture when he first came through the door and go, you know, I don't know, anyone. So, oh, hi, do you want to get that again? You go, yeah, sure. Well, so that comes, you know, and all, but the technical side is also attached to an artistic side. So a guy can take a picture, but he can't see the picture. Now that's different. A lot of guys are like that. And that's the difference too. So he won't see why you took that picture. You won't understand, one, because there was a great bit of art to it, or there was something going on behind that you wanted to include in that picture, or you did the connotation of why that picture is important because of who the guy is and what's happened in his life, or there's always a story to be told behind the picture. You know? So one of my famous pictures is Liz Hurley. It's Liz Hurley in the black dress, a Versace dress that she wore for a movie called Four Weddings and a Funeral. She was a girlfriend of an actor called Hugh Grant, and he was the star of it. And everyone had photographed that dress all evening, from cinema, arrival, leaving, party, arrival at the party. And there just was something that just hadn't really worked in my eyes. So everyone's still taking the same picture, but just the way I saw it. So I waited until she walked past me going into the club, and I knew she had to walk up 2 steps. And I knew that that dress would react to movement as she moved her, quite buxom in those days. And it did, it stretched the dress, the pins all were in the right position. And she turned around and gave me a beautiful smile. Hugh Grant doesn't even know the picture's been taken. He's walking in. He's still looking forwards. It's her. That was just between me and her. Now that picture is published about 10,000, 20,000 times.
Crazy.
You know, see, it's actually if you Wikipedia Versace black dress, voila, boom.
That's the picture.
There you go.
Yep.
One.
You see, Hugh's looking forward. I didn't even know that bit.
Yep. I Googled, believe it or not, I Googled Elizabeth Hurley black dress.
Boom.
You know, one of the favorite pictures that I've seen of yours is David Beckham with Posh Spice, early days,
Yeah.
and you got Lenny Kravitz in the back, photobombing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they've done incredibly well with their career though too. She was obviously part of the biggest girl band for a long time, Spice Girls, and what happened there was those two particularly became a super couple, and we were talking about the fact that his sporting prowess and activity supported her when her Spice Girl activity slowed. And then through that, then they created the couple. She started in a fashion, and the two of them support each other on a marketing level, which is incredible.
Oh yeah, they're a power.
A massive success. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
What's expected of you when you're showing up? Are they saying, hey, we got to get 10 good pictures, 5 good pictures, 1 good picture, 1,000 good pictures? How do they justify what they're paying you, and through what quantification?
So, and again, let's go back to that. 1 good picture would be if you're editorial, if you're working editorially, you have no commitment to anyone. You're invited in, you do what you do, you leave. If you think the party's boring, you say bye, you leave. But you might get 1 great picture in there. Well, when you work as a paid assignment, then you have a commitment to them. It's not so much a great picture. It's more they have to have a set of good pictures. for whoever the client is that they'd be happy with. So obviously, if you're shooting fashion, you'd have to do head and toe, beautiful girls. Then you do combinations, and if you're lucky, out of nowhere comes a picture, which is super better, you know. Then you go to parties where no one really knows what's going to happen, so there's no set. They just want to see it, and they go, "Oh my God, look at that! You covered that really well." And out of that, again, might come one great picture. So I did a picture of Bella Hadid. We were at a party for Love Mag, and everyone was having a great time at this club called Lulu there. And then she cheekily puts her leg up, big pair of heels on, and she's laughing. That picture then takes a life of its own and goes around the world. You know, I was in Cannes. So in Cannes, we were doing the Amphar, which is the massive AIDS charity that Liz Taylor started. And this year they had it again, a beautiful villa in the middle of south of France. And Sharon turns up, and of course, all the pictures, everyone there with her, glass in hand, blah, blah, blah. We walk round, take her around, I'm showing her where the event's going to be, the beautiful stage. Before you know it, she's starting to give me a Marilyn Monroe moment. She's lying on the floor, the dress is up there, and everybody's going, I'm going, what the hell's happening here? But then, out of that comes a great picture again. Not what you expected, but there it is. It happens, you know. And those things, like I say, like Liz, I've got a great picture of Kate Moss, which is going to be my exhibition, where just hadn't got a good picture of Kate. And she was coming out of an exhibition, the National Portrait Gallery with her boyfriend at the time. And as she came out, she threw her fur coat over her shoulders. And she just looked at me, she had a cigarette in her mouth, and she had her hand like that. And I just went, shit, took the picture. James Dean in Giant, when he first meets Liz Taylor and Rock Hudson, and he's a young cowboy, and he's got the rifle over his shoulder, and he's just full of rebellion, yeah? And that for me, boom. And luckily everyone agrees with me and views it. So much so that when Jefferson Hack, who's a massive young magazine editor, who was the boyfriend, they did a 25 years of Kay Moss by one of these huge, you know, bookmakers, Rizzoli or something, Rizzoli or whatever it's called, massive. And he called me up and said, Dave, where's that picture? I went, well, I sent it. I haven't seen it yet. And I'm the only sort of journalist picture in the whole book. Everything else is studio. It's like, you know, Tino, it's fucking so-and-so, and there's my frame, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, you've done so much. I mean, you was telling me what, you have 1 million pictures on Getty alone.
Yeah.
1 million.
Well, really, depends on how you search. It comes up 940,000 or 1 million. Depends on how you look. Yeah.
Jeez.
Have a little look. See what comes up. Depends how you search it.
That's a lot of times clicking that button.
That's a lot of parties, a lot of events, a lot of late night. Do
you ever have like a special camera? Like, are you emotionally attached to any of your equipment, or it's just whatever?
Yeah, so he has 951,833 images on Getty.
Yeah, like, did you just hear my question, by the way, Dave?
Sorry,
are you? Is there like a specific camera that, like, man, this is my go-to? I need, like, this is my lucky camera, or this is where I get my best shots with. Is there anything like that?
Well, so historically, I've used Nikons. I bought my first Nikon in 1977, 78, driving past a second-hand store. You know what you call it, the pawn shop type place?
Yeah.
And I just went past, just caught my eye. I went, whoa, they look like two Nikon F1s. Yeah. So I pull over, go in, and there were these two cameras. And it was such a non-camera shop. It's the sort of place where you buy like air guns and, you know, and old toys sort of place. And I bought, and they were the first Nikons I bought. And what happened with Nikon is they promised you that a Nikon lens would fit any range of camera for the rest of your life. The bayonet will stay the same, the clicking. And for a freelance, that was so important because you didn't want to go and buy new lenses all the time. So that got me tied into them. So I went through all of their film range and then started with the D1, and now I'm on the D5. The D6 is coming out next. Far too big and far too heavy, annoyingly, for a pro.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're for pros who are going to go climb Everest or go to a war zone or whatever, football.
Sure.
But for the job I do, they're way too big.
Sure.
But sadly, these big companies keep putting the best software and hardware into the biggest camera. So you can't buy what you want in a smaller camera. You have to buy this big thing,
Sure.
which is too heavy and a pain in the butt.
Sure.
But you have to do it because that's the quality you want.
Do you have a sponsorship with Nikon or
No,
anything
not
like
at all.
that? No?
No.
So one of the last questions, I know we've kept you for a bit now, so we really appreciate it. Okay. So you mentioned back before, like, you know, if you give anyone advice, especially young men, you tell them always to dress the part. You know, you've mentioned about being charismatic, cool. What, I mean, you must have a lot of people asking you for career advice. You've done so well over your life. What, apart from those things that you brushed on, is there any other little bits of gold that you drop for the younger listeners?
As I said to you about the break, that's important. Break's not a break till you're able to take advantage of it.
Right.
That's an important thing.
Yeah.
Try, because there's no other way. There's no other way. You just got to keep on knocking on the door and hope it'll open up. And I think, to be honest with you, I am a little bit worried for the new guys because content's being so disrespected. You know, there's too many people doing it.
Yeah.
There's too much of that going on now. A lot of guys who, you know, it's too easy to say, oh, you know, the good will float up and everyone won't. But it's not that simple. It's not that simple. I think new technology helps, but then it also helps a lot of mediocre people too to stay in the game. And I don't know where these young guys are going to get enough to keep to be able to bring up their families or, you know, do whatever. I was lucky. I caught it on the bottom of a wave. So I was just lucky that wave just started going up, but it hit there and it's sort of coming down. And most of us surviving because we were connected, we've done what we're doing.
Yeah.
But if you're a young man and you had a couple of kids, you'd be like struggling at the moment.
Yes, especially with all these amateurs right now, because every amateur is an expert with what they do. Like, oh, we don't need to do this. This is good enough, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you know, I know it's a bit of an old-fashioned thing, but, you know, back in the day, having to go to college and do your bit and then come out after the set time. Not because you could just pick up a YouTube video and go, oh, okay, I know that now. Yeah. Yeah, and that sadly is the way now, right? So sadly, you know, what can we do? It's the way it goes, you know. Cameraman in the old days would take 2-3 years to learn his trade, you know. Whereas now, what he's going to do is, as I say, get by, because every digital camera can be a video camera now.
I can see there being positives and negatives of both, like this low cost of entry into things. I can see that being a positive as well. But one thing that I see, and especially like the old school generation, what they knew that they had to do was networking, showing up all the time, you know, risking it, you know, I'm not sure if this is going to pay off, but keep going. I mean, that's one thing that you don't see. Yeah,
and also the skill level. The skill level, don't forget, when I was a young photographer, if you messed something up, you didn't know you'd messed it up till you got back to the office.
Yeah. Yeah, now, you get away with murder right now.
Because they go, oh shit, I'm not going to do that again. I mean, we even do it. Don't get me wrong, even I do. You know, I go, oh shit, can I do it again? Yeah. But those days, so a commissioning editor, he'd have to trust in your skills. That doesn't exist anymore. And the problem also with the internet is this: unless you know how to monetize your internet, it's very difficult to make anything from it. It's all giveaway, it's all free.
Yeah.
Now, where's the guy who goes, well, you know, I'm going to have a career here? Where's the guy that goes to the bank? Oh, I need to borrow £200,000 because I want to buy a house. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I shoot internet. Well, what are you getting from that? Well, I'm trying to monetize it, but I don't really know where that's coming from yet. but everyone knows me. They love me. I've got 100,000 followers. And so where's the guy who's gone, okay, you've got 100,000 followers. I'm going to give you some money every time you shoot. And when he appears, then we're all good again, aren't we? Then we're all good. So how does the guy make his money? So he has to then monetize his followers, his following levels. So then he's got to go somewhere. And they're going to say, okay, we can see your potential because of your followers. So we're going to place you in positions where those people will pay for you because, and that's how, so you see that, so that's a new world, isn't it, really?
Sure,
it's a new world that's coming along now.
Sure.
Which, don't get me wrong, some of those guys are getting the idea, they understand that, you know, but they tend to be celebrities that get that. So that's the whole point. Because again, the internet's done this, right? Instead of saying, oh, you know, a photographer could do that, they go, oh, no. We'll invite you because you've got 100,000 followers. You just take your own selfie. And then that's enough for us. You know what I mean? Then we'll, you know, then we'll pay you. And then the client comes back and goes, that's really good, but where are the pictures from the event? Yeah. Oh, no, they were pictures of me, really. You know, it's not, I haven't got that lovely picture of your car or that lovely picture of that model wearing that, you know? So that amusingly, for me and my guys and the guys who work in my game, we tweak that and we're bringing it round. We're bringing it back. So what we're doing, we're saying, listen, let us shoot your social media shot.
Right.
And then give it to that guy. And then he'll put it up. Yeah. And then you've got to get a really good picture. Because we've taken it. They've all gone, hey, it's not that idea. So now we've got the money back. We've pulled it back from around the corner. So now they'll still have the social media guys running around.
Sure.
But they'll have us in there as well.
Sure.
Especially when you're working for a big brand. Big brands, they love all that arty, you know, social media, but then they go, have you got the full length of her and that dress with the black little lump? Have you got that? Have you got that? Now, if you haven't, they're all complaining. So luckily, we took that now. We brought it back from, you know, we're now back employed again.
Well, I can imagine that most of these influencers that you know, it would be handy if you're there once a month, once a quarter for a bit, and you do loads of stuff and content because they need unlimited.
Well, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, they carry their own guys, man. Influencers carry their own.
Yeah.
They've all got guys down, you know, they walk through the door, there's an idiot going, what the fuck's he? You know, I mean, at a big event sometimes.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
But after something like the Fashion Awards in London, which you got that beautiful red carpet where they all come up it and they all stop, they're looking for us guys because they know we're going to shoot a beautiful picture where the light's right, everything's great, they look beautiful. And the next day, all my team are doing is, yes, baby, we can send you a picture. Make sure you tag, baby. Thank you, baby. Thank you, baby. And that's happening all, you know, for days after that.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure.
There you go.
So just let's wrap it up. But you know, he mentioned about a car. I forgot to say, Uncle Dave's a race car driver too.
Oh, that's sick.
Dude, yeah. Yeah. And that's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other world.
But that's not for this time. We have to get him back on and go over his racing career because he's got a hilarious story.
Like an actual career?
No, like hobby career.
Dude,
yeah, you took it pretty serious though.
No. Racing like you know, Europe, England, London, you know, London. Yeah. Everywhere. Silverstone, Spa-Francorchamps.
He's done 24-hour races.
Yeah.
He's been building his own cars for ages.
Oh, so you're out of your mind. This is great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, at the beginning when we first bumped into each other, he's hobbling along on his leg. What happened? You had a crash and the brake pedal went straight into the...
Brake pedal always have, if you have any front end, the brake pedal comes back at you. You've got to lift your feet up quick. But if you don't, it does what it does to me. It hits you like a baseball bat under your foot. But anyway, I'm surviving that. Yeah, no, I'm into my probably 32nd year of racing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've always found you have to have something to do, a hobby that levels you. So the crazier my photographic world became, the better it was when I could go to my race team where these guys have no idea what you're talking about. You know, these are guys, well, mechanics, you know, All they want to know is you can go as fast as you can in the car. They all think you're some glamour photographer. You know, they don't even know what you're doing. You know, so great thing, brings you right back to earth, normality, normal blokes hanging out with, you know, and that's helped me for the last 30 years. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
Why race car driving?
A thing about cars when I was very young, in Mauritius, neighbor with a car, with the owner of a filling station, had broken cars. We used to go play with them. Then you come to England, and then you finally get your first small sports car, and you start playing with that, and then, you know, that becomes an MGB. MGB becomes a Porsche, and then you realize that your mechanic actually is part of a racing team mechanic. So you start bugging him. Oh, come on. Let's build a race car. Let's build a race car. You know, he's going, no, it's a drug, Dave. Don't do it. And he was right. It is a drug. 31 years later, I'm still doing it. And yeah, and the idea, the drug is going as quick as you can. The drug is driving as fast as you can around a circuit, not going on a straight line. That is too easy. Going around as fast as you can around a circuit, stop, brake, turn, the skills, the danger. I mean, I raced at Spa-Francorchamps. I mean, you know, so when I watch Formula One, I know what those guys are doing way quicker than I'm doing it. Sure. But I know when they're going up a Rouge and they have got that, you know, chicane at the top. I've been there, I spun there, you know, 120 miles an hour, missed the wall by that. Yeah, stuff like that, you know. So when you come over here in Silverstone, and in fact, it's helped my career because my enthusiasm with motor racing meant that I very quickly got involved with the Formula One race at Silverstone, and very quickly brought my showbiz side to that. Yeah, because I was, you know, trying to make that work for me. Had some very big discussions, and then I went to Monaco. First couple of years, I actually went as a photographer to photograph cars, and then I realized what was going on there, and now I go there to cover it, to photograph the parties, not the cars. Yeah. Or because that's the biggest, probably Monaco is the most glamorous one. But you can do this everywhere. And that knowledge of motorsport attached to the knowledge of showbiz created a speciality to the point where, as I said, I was talking to Alex about that, was that 4 years ago, someone said, oh, we've got this thing called Formula E, which is this new electric racing car, which everyone's talking about. They wanted someone to pitch, to take celebrity to it and try and get as much coverage they could. And I said to this girl, I said, you know, you're the luckiest girl in the world. You just came to the one guy who can do all of that. Not only that, but I know the CEO of the Formula E already. I'd met him already a couple of years before. So we walk into that meeting. He shouts across his office, great to see you, Dave. Great to see you on board. And that's like, you know, so the deal gets done. And I've taken Kylie Minogue to Santiago in Chile, Rita Ora, Sienna Miller to Paris, Idris Elba to Paris, Rome, like you were talking about, what were you talking about? Who were you talking about? The Scottish guy?
McGregor?
You and McGregor. To Rome. So literally, you know, Orlando Bloom to Marrakesh, Liz Hurley, Justin, what's his name?
Bieber?
No, the other guy, the Theroux. Yeah, the actor, Justin Theroux and all that. Just craziness.
Sure.
And that comes from the knowledge of motor racing.
Right.
So you see, here's an example where you've used two things.
Yep.
To make something work for you.
Yeah.
You know, so if you, for example, you know, if you're into a different style of, let's say you're into acupuncture.
Right.
So your job gets accelerated and, you know, and boosted because not only are you doing your therapy here, you can come in with that as well.
Right.
You know, so that, yeah.
It's skill stacking.
Skill stacking by Scott Adams. Yep.
About 40 years worth of doing it.
Yeah.
You know, because if there's one thing, and I mean, you know, you're one of the most social guys I think I've ever met. You can talk to anyone about anything, and
but that comes from, yeah, and I suppose that does come up being a bit. Try and be knowledgeable about everything. And I think a lot of guys specialize and think they've done it because they know that. Try and know everything. I think that comes from education too a bit.
Right.
You know, having I'm very fortunate obviously to go to, I'm international anyway.
Right.
So I've always come over, you know, as I say, I was born in Mauritius, went to live in Liverpool, came to London, and a level of education where you can talk to people, you can entertain people, and that has to be added. That ability to socialize and talk and bring content to a table, to a conversation. And again, now, of course, no one wants to talk about going to school, but maybe we should talk about school. You should go to school. That's why you've got to get to a certain level of school. You know I got to my A levels and I never made university, but I would always encourage anyone I knew to go on to another year or two of education. Even if it keeps you away from going to work for you know, I used to say, until you choose your vocation or job, no one can pigeonhole you. They can't say what you're going to be. You could sit next to the Queen as long as you're doing your A levels, your university. And she'd go, hey, young boy, what do you do? Oh, I'm a university mom. So she doesn't know whether you're going to be a brain surgeon or or a makeup artist yet. But the minute you make your commitment, then you're up. So the longer you can leave, the longer you can study and enjoy that. And also for kids, for young people, the pressure of work, from the start of their lives, it's too much. So sometimes actually, get another couple of years where you're still, having a split or having a laugh with your girlfriend or your boyfriend, do you know what I mean? And enjoying life at the expense of your parents and the government. And then a lot of times that experience puts you in at a higher level than the guy that started earlier, isn't it? So it's not always a negative thing. It's actually quite often you come in at a higher level. Sure. Because you've done those grades, you have those diplomas.
It's gaining skills, right?
So you come in with an educational skill that gets you past those doors, but the guy's still trying to smash the door down. You're in because of that. So that's another one. Yeah, lovely.
Mike, you got anything else for Dave?
Yeah, I got a million things, but let's let the man go.
All right. Good to speak to you both.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you, Dave.
Nice
David.
one.
Thank you so much, Uncle Dave. We appreciate you, brother.
All right.
Hey, so everybody knows you, who needs to know you, but other people, how do they find you if they want to follow your stuff?
Dave Benett Instagram.
Dave Benett Instagram.
1 N 2 T's.